Hey everybody, what's good? In this video, I am going to show you how you can nail your post-workout nutrition protocols. Very, very simple things. They're going to help you get the absolute most out of your training, out of your body, which is ultimately how you actually improve your performance or your aesthetics over time. So my name is Evan Lynch. I am a sports nutrition specialist. I am the nutritionist to a number of Olympic athletes, professional cyclists, Ironman triathletes, some jumpers, throwers, boxers, anything in between. That's what I do. This is my life. This is my job, 24/7 sports nutrition. So let's get into the topic. Let's see what we need to look at, the brass tacks. Before we do that, it's important that you understand why recovery is really, really important. Two big things, okay? What we're looking at optimizing here, mainly your muscle protein synthesis to make sure that post-workout, your body has, I suppose, the stimulus and the raw materials to rebuild damaged tissues that are broken down during exercise and to make the new tissues that the load you put in your body has kind of stimulated or told your body, listen, we need your hamstrings to be a little bit stronger here. You make those new tissues in recovery, in your deep sleep, in fact. I'm going off topic. Muscle protein synthesis needs to be stoked. That's done with a combination of carbohydrate timing, fueling, making sure that your muscle is not being used as a fuel source, and making sure your overall protein is met. We're going to look at that. That leads us nicely into our second element then. That's your glycogen levels or your body's carbohydrate stores. Typically, people will have between 400 and 800 grams of glycogen, depending on how big they are and how active they are. So the more active you are, or a highly trained athlete can have up to 800 grams of glycogen, whereas a sedentary person might have 400. You're going to use mostly muscle glycogen when you're exercising, liver glycogen at rest. That's for obvious reasons, I hope. When we're looking at glycogen is an interesting one. So as I said, it depletes during exercise, and we want that glycogen tank to fill up again as quick and effectively as possible. Why? Think about it like this, as a ladder. The higher your glycogen tank is filled, the better you are at responding to muscle protein synthesis, the less cravings you have. The better you sleep, interestingly enough, the following day, if your glycogen tank is nice and high compared to someone who is suppressed, exercise feels easier, you perform at a higher rate, you're more ready to train, and your tolerance to higher intensity stuff is superior. So really, really important. Glycogen, muscle protein synthesis, keep those in the back of your head. So interesting statistic, athletes who nail their carbohydrate intake within a short period of time post-workout, their glycogen tank is 66% more topped up than those who don't. 1 day later, 24 hours later. Something as simple as making sure you have 0.5 gram of carbs per kilogram of body weight in the tank within 20-30 minutes. That can make a 66% difference to your glycogen tank, provided your overall carb and protein intakes are adequate, and calorie intakes for that matter. But that simple task can make a massive difference, okay? Really, really important. I haven't touched on it yet. I will be in a couple of minutes. Looking at hydration. When you exercise, you sweat, at least if you're doing an honest session. When you sweat, you're losing water. Dehydration is essentially fluid loss, causing, I suppose, higher concentrations of electrolytes and elements that would normally be diluted in your blood. Typically in sports nutrition, you're looking to keep dehydration to less than 2%. Anything above that, you can risk exercise-associated hyponatremia or heat stroke, depending on the conditions. The reason we're looking at this and why we want to look at rapid rehydration tactics is that dehydration can affect you for 3 days. So if you're 1 or 2% dehydrated today, which is very easy to have happen, it's affecting you 3 days later, not in a way you can tangibly feel. You're not going to wake up in the morning and think, I was 2% dehydrated 3 days ago. It does affect you though, okay? Just to note. So again, nutrition is not very tangible, not like if I could reach through the camera and slap you in the face, you'd feel it. You don't immediately feel the impact of your dietary decisions. It's only obvious in hindsight or over the space of weeks as your body composition changes or as your performance increases or decreases. That doesn't mean it's not important, okay? This stuff is really, really important. So what are we talking about? What do we want to do? I've already mentioned this. I just wanted to put it very, very quickly in visual terms. Carbohydrates, mostly easily absorbed carbohydrates, so we can rapidly take them on board. The reason being, post-workout, you get big spikes in insulin and glucose transport. If you have a sugary type carbohydrate like fruits or sports drinks or jellies or gels, anything like that, you have them, they absorb really quickly, your cells hoover them up, and your glycogen stores are topping up ASAP. So jumping on that physical adaptation to exercise, you fill up your pro-glycogen stores really, really quickly. So you can kickstart that glycogen recovery. Combining carbs with caffeine actually can ameliorate that. Other things we need to look at, protein requirements. Protein isn't necessarily time sensitive. We will look at it in a minute in terms of what you need to do. You need to get your protein in adequate amounts to rebuild tissues that very much break down during exercise. Finally, you need to replenish those fluid sources to make sure that you're as hydrated as you can possibly be and dehydrated for the absolute minimal amount of time. Okay, I hope this makes sense. Let's look at the finer details, shall we? Okie doke. So carbohydrate guide. This carbohydrate guide is there to make sure that in general, your glycogen levels are as optimal as they could be, that you're not skipping carbs for 4 days and then trying to do a tough session and trying to fill an already depleted tank after a tough workout. You don't want to do that. Carbohydrate availability is really, really important for optimal performance, for efficient metabolism. Even it's implicated in bone metabolism and relative energy deficiency syndrome and menstrual dysfunction. You don't want to skimp on the carbs. Minimal guidelines, 3 to 5 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. That's a rest day, by the way, if you're an athlete. Athlete, by the way, defined as someone who trains on purpose consistently. You know, it is as loose as that. So if you exercise, you need to do this. Then we are looking at getting 1 to 1.5 grams per kilogram per hour of exercise. So ideally from dual source carbohydrates, you'll see it on those sports gels and drinks. It'll say 2-to-1 ratio of maltodextrin, fructose usually. So what's this then? So I'm an 80-kilo man. So every hour I exercise, I'm looking to replace 80 to 120 grams or add that in on top of my daily baseline requirements. And how do we structure that then? Well, post-workout, you're looking at getting up to 1 gram per kilogram within 30 minutes to get that rapid glycogen replenishment. And for the 4 hours post-workout, you're going to want an average of 1 gram per kilogram per hour. Okay, so you'll typically achieve that with that quick post-training snack, a balanced, like a big balanced meal, and then a snack again within that 4-hour period. That kind of takes care of itself. I hope it's becoming evident that if you're exercising, the bulk of your carbohydrates should be either just before, during, or the few hours after workout. So it's periodized around your training to help you get the most out of your session. Okay, so that's carbohydrates. I'm going to put all this into a digestible example in a couple of minutes. Pardon the pun. Okie doke. So protein then, 1.6 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. That will serve most people. And you're looking to get it from high biological value sources approximately every 3 hours or so. Okay. The most important thing here is that you get an adequate intake. Now, 1.6 to 1.8 grams is what's recommended for most female athletes and most power or sprint-based athletes. If you're an endurance athlete, you don't have to go that high, but being in and around there optimizes muscle protein synthesis. So it's a logical place to be. Curiously, when you go over this for the sake of muscle protein production, it's not linear. The more protein you eat, the more muscle you make is not a correlation. It stops at around this target value here. So that's why it's like this. If you're injured or sick or immobilized due to like cruciate ligament damage, you might want to be up as high as 2.3, 2.4 grams per kg per day to prevent muscle loss. So there's a difference between preventing losses, promoting building. This talk is aimed at healthy people or healthy athletes. The second most important thing then is that you get high biological value sources. That's essentially a protein food that has pretty much all 20 amino acids. It's pretty bioavailable, as in you're actually absorbing what you eat, not pooing it out, which happens more often than you think. And for brownie points, every 3 hours or so, you're looking for about 0.2 to 0.3 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's a rough recommendation. 20 to 40 gram range will suit most people. Some examples of high biological value products. I'll start with the plant-based ones: tofu, soya, corn mince. Those are decent plant-based options. Then any dairy, meat, fish. That's how you do it. Protein bars are good. Protein powders are also okay. You don't need to get your protein ASAP post-workout unless your sessions are longer than 3 hours. So in which case, it's likely that it will have been more than 4 or 5 hours since your last protein hit. It's illogical to get one in the door then. But if you're doing an hour of a session, a gym session, it's really not that vital, as long as you get enough and approximately you eat every 3 hours, okay? So there are some cyclists, Ironman guys, ultra runners that I work with who have sessions that are 5-6 hours in duration. They will take protein on during their session because they're far surpassing that every 3 hours or so rule that we have for athletes. That's not required for most people, okay? So point number one up here is the most important. This is the second important. And just note, those lads smashing down protein shakes after a workout, they'd be better off smashing down a few bananas, basically. Fluid then, so the hydration element of things. This is often omitted by people. Baseline, 35 mils per kilogram of body weight per day. And if you can do a sweat test, so weigh yourself before and after a training session, don't go to the toilet, don't drink anything, and whatever that weight loss is, it's a very crude way of doing it. That'll likely be your sweat rate or something close. If you have a sports science lab, let me know and use it, let me know what your sweat rate is. You can't replace more than 600 mils an hour without risking tummy problems or vomiting. So if your sweat rate is in excess of 600 mils per hour, you're going to need to take on 600 mil during training. So actually drinking in training, even if it's gym work, that's really important. Post-workout then, if you're a heavy sweater, if you sweat, let's say 1,000 mils per hour, and you drink 600 mils per hour, we're expecting you to lose 400 mil of fluid per hour. And the golden rule here for rehydration, you replace your fluid or weight loss by 1.5 within 3 hours, using something like an isotonic sports drink, even a hypotonic sports drink, like basically just has a slightly lower sodium content in your blood, or a standard Lucozade Sports, something like that. Milk is also a really, really good isotonic, a natural isotonic. It's been shown to be better than actual sports drinks in hot environments. So do with that info what you will. I digress. If you're a heavy sweater, as evidenced by your t-shirt changing colors or salt deposits around your armpits or your chest, an electrolyte tablet would be a good idea. Typically, this is one of the only times you will advise someone consumes products that have lots of sodium and salt in them. But if you are a heavy sweater, you do need it, particularly if you're training for more than 90 minutes, 2 hours a day. You don't want to lose all that sodium. That's actually dangerous as well. With all things nutrition, it's not more is better. It's optimal is best. It's called hormesis, the bell curve. So having no sodium in your diet can actually raise your cholesterol, interestingly enough. Then there's just that right amount, 5 grams on average per day, and replacing exercise losses. So those electrolyte tablets, if you're a heavy sweater, Getting too much salt, then stomach cancer, kidney problems, high blood pressure, all bad things. So get it right. That's fluid guidelines. That's rehydration. Remember, dehydration can affect you for up to 3 days. The effects of dehydration, 1% dehydration, by the way. If you feel thirsty, you're already between 1 and 2% dehydrated. You're looking at a minimum drop in performance of about 10% for aerobic-based activities. If you're at that 2 or 3% mark, you're going to have darker urine. Cognitively, you're not going to work as well. Your heart isn't working as well. Your blood pressure is up. You're not having a good day at the office if you're there. So hit that baseline intake if you can, and that will help you a lot in terms of staving that problem off. Okay, that's really it. Okay, that's recovery. The three-pronged approach: carbohydrates, overall protein intake, fluid ingestion. If any of you want to work with me, or if you want to learn how to fuel like a pro, you can actually book an online consultation with me. So I have an online clinic where I do one-to-ones. It's open 6 days a week. You can book at a time that suits you from the comfort and safety of your own home. Or if you think you'd like to work in my online coaching program, where we've had a couple of Olympians, we have all our pro athletes and beginners, by the way. So some people doing their first 5K and some people just trying to lose weight. If you want to get your nutrition taken care of, you can either book in for that consultation, or you can get in touch and see if we can fit you in for a spot on the online coaching. I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. I like to help people. So yeah, if you want to work with me, please do get in touch. And that's everything from me, guys. So just to recap, protein, carbohydrates, fluids, very, very simple. There's not any hidden science. There's not any hidden mechanisms. It's all just common sense. If you enjoyed this video, you found it useful, subscribe, leave an old comment below, give me a thumbs up, let me know what you think, and share it with a friend. That's how I get my content out there. That helps me an awful lot. It enables me to keep up this type of content, this type of work. So if you enjoyed it, let me know. And yeah, stick around for the next video. Going to be putting up a lot more content in the coming weeks, coming months. So cheers for listening, guys. Get working out, but more importantly, get your recovery straight. Have a good one.